Hola chicos. So today our lesson is going to focus on creating a setting for our story. We're going to spend the next 3 weeks writing a story. We have been working on adjectives so that we can describe appropriately, and today's lesson is going to focus a little bit more on that description. I have you working in the present tense because our next lesson is going to be on the preterite and the imperfect, and at that point we will switch things to the past. For now, I want you focusing on your adjectives. I want you focusing on your agreement. So if you look at this document, I have taken you through the creation of a setting step by step. I have written my own story, and you can pretty much model what you're doing off of what I have been doing. And I've tried to include tips and hints to remind you of things that you may have forgotten. So if we look at this document together, the first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you create the different parts of your story inside of your notebook. Remember, it's really important that you continue to have the connection between your handwriting and your brain as you're working with Spanish. So for this lesson, you're going to be handwriting in your notebook all the individual parts of your description, and then you're going to take all of those individual parts and you're going to put them together in a shared Google Doc. I have not asked you guys to write an email today. The only thing that you're going to be doing today, in addition to the meditation and the joke and the meme, is working on creating this introductory paragraph. I did not add any additional work because I want you to be able to be thoughtful and to take your time creating a good, meaty, interesting, detailed introductory paragraph. All right, we're going to start off with who your protagonist is. So looking at your protagonist here, you want to go back to our Google shared doc of adjectives and pick out really, really interesting adjectives. Hopefully you've already done this because the assignment that was due for today was for you to describe your protagonist in English. Today we're taking that description and we're turning it into Spanish. So hopefully you've already picked out some really interesting adjectives. If you haven't, please go back and pick them out now. They will make your story more interesting. So who is your protagonist? Tell me a little bit about the personality of this person. What does your protagonist look like? So here I want you to describe their physical attributes. Remember that you're going to use ser if this is how they always look. You're going to use estar if something has changed. So if your protagonist grew since the last time that we saw them, then you might use estar. If they're the same as they've always been, then you would use ser in your description. In my case, my protagonist is tall and brown, and now she's a little bit chubby because she's been in quarantine. So tall and brown are used with ser because she's always that way. And being a little bit chubby is used with estar because it's unusual for her. The next step is how does your protagonist feel? And I want to know about their emotional state. So remember, if you're describing the emotional state, you're going to be using estar. Even if they always feel this way, you can say they are always stressed. Siempre están estresados. I want to know why they feel the way that they're feeling. What is your protagonist wearing? Remember that in Spanish, when we're describing clothing, we're going to use the verb llevar. And also, if you think about when you first describe what someone's wearing, you would say something like, she is wearing a jacket. The jacket is red and beautiful. So paying attention to your articles. If it is a jacket, it's una chaqueta. If it's the jacket, it's la chaqueta. So you're going to use a if it hasn't been mentioned before. You're going to use the when you're talking about something specific. So she is wearing a jacket. The jacket is red. Ella lleva una chaqueta. La chaqueta es roja. You're going to talk about what your protagonist is in the middle of doing. And this is going to be our present progressive. She is walking. Está caminando. She is eating. Está comiendo. She is talking to a friend. Está hablando. It's the action that she's in the middle of doing during the start of the story. You're going to describe the location. So is she walking on the street? Is she standing outside of her house? Is she in her room? Where is she located? And remember that location is always estar. You're going to describe the time frame. Remember the time frame is always ser. So when does the story take place? Es lunes. Es mayo. Think about the seasons. Es primavera. Es verano. Es otoño. Es invierno. Es el año 2020. Es la mañana. Whatever the time frame is, use ser. You want to also finally describe the weather. So remember that with the weather, we have a lot of expressions that use hacer. You can also use the verb directly if you're talking about snowing and raining. Remember our vocab from when we did our travel unit. And you can also use the progressive to say it is raining or it is snowing. I wanted to remind you guys that we have a bunch of expressions that in English use the verb to be, like I am hungry, but in Spanish use the verb tener. So in Spanish, we're not actually saying I am hungry. We're saying I have hunger, I have thirst, I have heat, I have cold, I have fear, I have sleepiness, I have hurry, I have reason, as in I'm right and I'm wrong, I have luck. So just keep in mind that if you want to say any of these I ams on this side, you need to use a tener when you write it in Spanish. Now I want you to take all of these little sentences that you have written and I want you to put them together into one cohesive sentence. You're going to need to reorganize what you say. All of the skills that you have learned in your English class for writing apply to your classes in Spanish. So if it doesn't flow in English, it's not going to flow in Spanish. I rearranged mine. I changed Maria for ella in a few spots. And I just kind of cut and pasted everything so that in the end, the entire paragraph flows. So again, with this assignment, you are going to work your way through this handout, answering each question in your notebook. After you've answered the who, the appearance, the feelings, what they're wearing, what they're doing, where they are, when it happens, what the weather's like, and remembering to use expressions with tener if you need to, then you're going to look at everything that you wrote in your notebook and you're going to put it together for me in our shared written Google Doc, and I will provide you with feedback. The next steps after this is going to be to learn about the preterite, the imperfect, and the pluperfect. Then we will take this introductory paragraph and we will put it in the past. And then we will focus on working on our second and our third paragraph, which will be the action in the story. And then we will work on our final paragraph, which will be the conclusion. We will not have a project this year. We're going to focus on our writing through the end of the semester. Please let me know if you have any feedback or if you have any questions in comments. Thank you.